ever get that feeling that you're being watched? Like that feeling you get when you feel like someone is just staring at you and not taking their eyes off of you? Or when you feel like you're being followed? Call me crazy, but I feel that every time I'm in my room. At first I nudged it off because I just moved in and I'm still getting used to the new room. But as the days went by, I began to fear something more sinister was in the works. I had just recently moved into my new house after my parents found a better job. We weren't high class or middle class families, so when they got an opportunity to be paid more, they took it without hesitation. Since I was still in high school, it meant that moving around a lot would be a pain for me. But I didn't mind because I just liked how my parents were so excited to move. My first impressions of the house was that it needed to be painted. On top of that, it really had a bad stench. I can't really explain it, but after I went in my room, I forced my dad to clean out the smell. I'm not gonna lie, the first night was pretty bad. I kept tossing and turning, and I could never get the right and comfortable position. The clock just kept ticking while I kept rolling. Not only that, but there was also this strange feeling like I was being watched. Nonetheless, I got no sleep on my first night. The second night, I slept in my parents' room. My dad had switched with me for one night. I complained to him that the stench was unbearable, and so he took up the challenge of sleeping in my room. That night wasn't bad at all. In fact, I got a really good sleep. But the worst of them was on night 3. I was back in my room when suddenly I heard my doorknob turn. I looked back at the door only to see complete darkness. But then something moved in my room. Maybe it was just my imagination, because it was so dark, but I knew what I heard, and it definitely was my doorknob turning. The entire night, I felt like I was being watched to a point where I just started sweating constantly, which only made me unable to fall asleep. I had enough, and I convinced myself that it was all in my head, so I got up and turned on the lights. I turned it on only to see nothing. My bedroom was the same except for one thing. My closet was slightly opened. Being a coward, I ran to my parents' room and woke them up. I told my dad to check out my closet. Without hesitation, he ran to my room while I stayed with my mom. She just complained, saying,
"Aren't you a bit too old to believe in the boogeyman?"
My dad came back quickly and told me to sleep in here and locked the room. I did what he said, and the next night I decided to face my fears. I kept all my lights on in my room and tried to sleep. I jolted when I heard laughing. That same feeling that was haunting me these nights was also there. That uncomfortable feeling you get when someone is following you. I grabbed my table lamp and went to the closet. I quickly swung it open only to see clothing follow and hit me. I started tidying up one clothing at a time, when out of nowhere I see these 2 white balls from under my bed. I bent down again to grab my shirt and looked under my bed again. There she was, hiding under my bed. I threw all my clothing at her and ran to my parents' room and told them everything.
I live in a rather large city in Tennessee, where the crime rate is extremely high due to poverty and a recent decrease in government funds, combined with the fact that I am a woman, albeit a tall woman. I am a target for crime. Of course, I know all of this, but I still love to go out for runs at night. I work so much, there's not really another time I can. I really hate treadmills, and I love to see all of the buildings and parks light up at night. Fortunately, I always have my Doberman mixed dog along, just to scare people off. One night, I was going for a run, and something seemed off. They always say to trust your gut, but my gut had been filling up on too much pizza, so I was not about to stay in. It was also really windy, and those are my favorite times to run. So I grabbed my phone, pulled on my hoodie, and drove to the local park. Anyway, I had just started my run when my pooch kept pulling to the side of the sidewalk like she was avoiding something. It was weird because she usually stays on my left. I went over to look, and there was a jogger sitting in the middle of the grass field with her back turned to me. I approached her cautiously. My dog growled.
"Ma'am, are you okay?"
I asked as I walked towards her. I looked around, but there was no one else in this part of the park. She was small and had long stringy hair that looked like it hadn't been washed in a while. She turned to me. I will never forget her face. She was gorgeous. She had beautiful green eyes and a round mouth, but blood was spilling down her face.
"Help me,"
she gasped.
"I was running and I tripped. Can you help me to my car?" "Oh, of course."
I ran over to her and pulled her up. At this point, my dog was still cautious and stood away from us, but sniffed her curiously.
"My car is over in the parking lot. It's the red one."
She wrapped an arm around my shoulders, and we hobbled back to the car. Fortunately, we weren't far. While we were walking, I tried to make small talk, but the lady seemed dazed and did most of the talking. She told me her name was Molly, and that she was on spring break, and that she was so lucky to find me, because none of her friends knew where she had gone, and she knew this was a bad part of town. And oh, thank God, I had a cell phone with a charge. It was at this point in the conversation that I saw her red van parked right next to my gray one, which was strange because there was no other cars in the parking lot. I went on high alert, and my dog sensed it. She started trotting around, sniffing everything, circling me. When we got to the lady's car, she thanked me and reached for her keys. I took the opportunity to slam her head into the side of the van. She crumpled to the ground. Since she was already hurt from her fall, she was easy to take down. I grabbed her keys, unlocked her door, and threw her in the back. I closed the door after my dog hopped in after me. I quickly ran over to my car to grab my kit and slid back into the back of the car. This would also be easier to clean up because I could just torch the car instead of having to clean up mine again. And...
"Over here. I think I saw people over here."
a voice jolted me from my thoughts. I crouched low on over my prey. A second voice?
"Actually, I think the Pokestop is further into the park. Come on, we need to hurry, because I think the lure is almost done, and I need to catch a Lapras. Let's go."
I hear their voices retreat into the night. I climb into the front seat and start the engine. Thank God for cell phones. I don't even know if I'm posting this in the right place, but I need help. I don't know where to start, so you'll have to forgive me if this seems rushed or perhaps doesn't make as much sense as it should. I guess I'll just start and see where it takes me. I live in a village surrounded by woods. My back garden has a gate that leads almost directly into said woods. I've just come back and from having a smoke, and whilst I was out there, I swear there was something watching me. I know. This sounds as cliché as they come, but I need to tell somebody, whether it sounds like a joke or not. You might have noticed I used the word something instead of someone. My reasoning for this goes back a few weeks. I had a baby a few months ago. I've been walking with my newborn ever since he was born, and since I live in a remote village, there's only really one path to take. I walk him down the street and along a woodland path leading to a small occupied castle. The path is essentially the castle owner's driveway and is about a half a mile in length. On either side of the path are trees, currently a little bare given the time of year. A few weeks ago I had the same feeling I just had whilst I was walking with my baby. It had been dusk and I was trying to get my son off to sleep so that I can finally make dinner and get the house semi-respectable before my husband got home from work. The woods have always given me the creeps, but on this particular day I got so spooked the hairs on my arms stood up and a tingle trickled down my spine. I know, again with the cliches, but there's no other way to explain how I felt. About halfway up the castle driveway, I felt an overwhelming urge to turn around and jog back to the safety of the main road. I was just about to when my eyes started to water. I had noticed something in the woods, and it had noticed me. We're used to deer and pheasants in these parts, and you often meet the odd dog walker, since it's the only pleasant walk in the village. But what I witnessed was none of those things. It was a woman, or at least it looked like a woman, staring right at me. Her arms were outstretched, sagging, skin hung around her elbows and between each rib. She was naked and covered in a fine layer of hair that I only noticed when the late day sun shone through the trees above. The hair on her head was hanging down past her waist, and she looked almost anorexic. She didn't say anything, just continued to flex her hands, as if to beckon me towards her. I froze on the spot, my eyes streamed with water, something that always happens when I'm truly frightened. My feet and knees tingled as if the muscles were urging me to run. I remember wanting to look away, turn around and run as fast as my pram would allow me, but I was stuck, welded to the same spot, nothing but the sound of the dried out leaves rustling and the gentle breathing of my baby filling my ears. Then she grinned, a wide, toothless grin. It stretched so far across her face, I thought the skin at the corners of her mouth would split. She smiled ear to ear, got down on all four, and then ran. She moved too fast for the age she appeared to be. I'd guess 80s or 90s, and it was a clumsy, wide-legged, wide-armed run, as if she were an animal jumping from rock to rock over a stream. I have never ran as fast as I did that day. By the time I reached my front door, my baby was screaming, having been woken by my sprint. At this point, I should probably mention I suffered from postnatal depression with my first child, but so far with my second-born I felt fine. Yet when I told my partner about my experience in the woods, he seemed concerned. He questioned me as if I were on trial. How much sleep had I had? Had I spoken to anyone else about what had happened? How had my mood been? Did I think he was working too much? Should he take some time off? Was this a cry for help? Now I'm wondering if I'm crazy. But then tonight, I felt something watching me from beyond my back gate, from deep within those woods, and I just knew it was her. That wide, painful smile pulling her aged face in some unnatural contortion, her long, anorexic arms stretched in front of her, urging me to join her in those woods. I felt like she wants me for something.